Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Today on the program, the House of Representatives names its minority leader.
Let me just assure you, if we believe that this is not proper and contrary to the welfare of the citizen, then we'll go against that.
But some are not yet easily giving up the fight.
Hindi naman siguro kaduda-duda na minority kami dahil kami nga inalis eh. Inalis yung speaker, inalis ako na majority leader. Nung grupo na yon, alangan namang kasama pa kami doon.
Will the Supreme Court rule in their favor?
This representation would like to put on record our continuing objection to the recognition of Congressman Danilo Suarez.
Also, the House moves forward with charter change.
We are trying our best to find ways that we can really talk it out with our Senate counterpart.
And the fate of the tax reform law amid rising prices of goods. Marikina Representative Miro Quimbo joins us live. And later, certified chocolate lover? This could be the dream job for you. That's for today's In Focus. Thank you for joining us. Sitting in for Pinky Web, I'm Ruth Cabal. The battle for the House minority leadership is far from over, even after a majority of lawmakers voted to allow Congressman Danilo Suarez to retain his leadership post. Some lawmakers are set to question the decision before the Supreme Court. But what are the chances that it will rule on their favor? Also, the country's inflation rate sets another record high and the prices of goods continue to rise. Is the government doing enough in countering inflation woes? And can the second package of the tax reform law hurdle both houses of Congress? Let's go straight to the source of the story. Marikina 2nd District Representative Miro Quimbo. Good morning, sir. Thank you for your time.
Morning, Ruth. Morning.
So, Congressman, it ain't over till it's over. You're planning to go up to the Supreme Court and take up the House minority leadership issue. Tell us about that.
We're taking it to the fat lady. We have no choice at this point in time. We witnessed last Tuesday where for the first time Congress, the majority of Congress, actually anointed its own minority. It's a first because it's a time-held tradition in any democracy and in our rules and in our constitution that the minority is always protected, meaning it is the members of the minority who will elect their leader. But for the first time, it was subjected to a vote by the majority. So we're going to take it up to the court, and where the words are so expressly clear, we are confident that the court will rule in our favor.
You were quoted there as saying it's an illegal process, di ba? So that will be the basis. Sino po yung mga respondents doon?
Well, the respondents will be the Speaker, the Majority Leader, and the former Minority Leader, Danilo Suarez.
You're referring to him as former, ha? Hindi
former.
niyo kinikilala. Oo.
Well, former, because he voted for the majority. It is so clear that if you vote for the winning speaker, you are part of the majority, and a member of the majority cannot be the leader of the minority. It's simple as that.
Pero ito well, how do I refer? Kasi you're saying it's the former House minority leader.
Let's call
Pero
him
Congressman Suarez yan, is saying na meron daw siyang mga rason for wanting to stay to keep the post of minority leader. So let's see what he has to say.
Retiring from Congress as minority leader is something that I visioned to wind up my career as the minority leader. Yeah, that's the only reason. Matagal na rin kasi akong lagi nasa minority and plus the fact I don't want them to take my office. I built that office myself. Ako ang nagpagawa nun.
So what do you make of that statement? And hindi rin naman niya dinideny na close din naman siya kay Speaker Arroyo.
Well, he stated two reasons. First is that he wants to retire in this position. And that secondly, he doesn't want to leave the position because he built his office. It's a beautiful office. Frankly, he can have his office. I mean, we're not interested in getting the physical office. But it's not a personal choice. This is not a place where you retire, or it's not a matter for personal aggrandizement, but rather it's a hollow position protected by the Constitution Why? Because democracy demands that there be a second eye in Congress doing the checks and balance. In fact, the reason for which there are many protective clauses in our rules, as well as in the Constitution, is that you want that holy function being protected. Kahit tatlo lang yan, even if there's 8, 12 people out of 300, it's important because Congress churns out laws that affect everyone. You look at tax laws. We don't just come out with laws that celebrate holidays or change the names of streets. We come out with things that change the economy. We're talking about train. We're talking about train 2. If you don't have a valid and legitimate minority who is willing to take on that function, God forbid what will happen to this country.
So you're mentioning your reasons that there has to be a valid and legitimate opposition or minority. Pero sa tingin nyo sila, Minority Leader Suarez, why are they after that position?
Well, they're after the position because it's a means by which they make themselves more powerful by being close and as well as protective of the majority. Meaning it's a means by which they seal every possible opposition. And the minority, people don't realize it, is that people always ask me, why do you need the position? Why is the position needed? When in fact you can fiscalize even if you're not there. But the system, the way it goes, is that no legislation takes place unless the minority is given the opportunity to question it.
Okay.
Meaning, you're part of the process. If you're not part of the process, if you're an independent, they can just set you aside, which they have done. Meaning, in terms of the impeachment, the complaints, if you're not a member of the committee, they can actually ask you to not even speak. So it's very, very important that that office is functional.
And parang it's part of the whole democratic system, of course.
Yes, of course, because otherwise, nobody, you know, there's one basic rule in Congress. Majority always rules, but there's an exception. Except the composition of the minority. That's something that the majority never, ever rules.
Pero yan, you mentioned that again. Si Congressman Atienza is saying na you have a different interpretation of what happened the other day, di ba? Let's listen to that statement muna.
Dapat lang tuloy nila yung kanilang pagsisinungaling. They are misinterpreting the rules. They have misrepresented it. They continue to confuse the public. We need another body ruling on it. So the Supreme Court, no less. The rules of the House are the rules of the House. Misinterpret nila. They declare the vacancy when there is none. Hindi naman sila naghalal kay Congressman Suarez. Congressman Suarez was elected on July 25, 2016. And he remained to be the minority leader. But as far as Congressman Quimbo and Congressman De Vera are concerned, iba yung kanilang interpretation. Mabuti nga siguro sa Supreme Court sila pumunta, mapagsabihan sila. Sumunod kayo sa inyong rules.
Congressman, your reaction to that?
Well, I think...
Sinungaling daw kayo.
Oo nga, pagsisinungaling. I think buong bayan, alam na sila yung nagsisinungaling eh. Sila Congressman Lito na lang at saka sila Congressman Danny ang hindi nakaka-realize na yung kabaluktutan. Sabi ko nga, mahirap talaga gisingin yung nagtutulog-tulugan, ano ha? Pero it has always been their strategy. The strategy has always been to ensure that we get the decision, we get the support of the majority, and then let it just rot in the Supreme Court. But we're hopeful the Supreme Court can decide early. But honestly, as a lawyer, I don't think the court will be able to decide on this matter. The previous case in 2016 took them a year and 1 day
Yung
to
kay
decide.
Congressman Bagilat.
Kay Congressman Teddy Bagilat. So I'm pretty certain that it will also take a long time. But be that as it may, it's important that we be able to put it because we cannot have this being repeated again. I think this is a dark spot in the history of Congress. And that for the very reasons that they say why they want to stay in the minority, they like their office, their physical office, ang laki ng ginastos na nila, parang di sila maalis doon, they want to retire there. And you have a minority leader who previously declared after the election of GMA, sabi niya, I'm now moving to the majority. Why? Because he was the #1 endorser of GMA. He voted, he campaigned for the speaker. How then can you now act and turn back and say, wait, ayoko muna yung give up, sayang naman pala.
Congressman, kailan po kayo magpa-file sa Supreme Court?
Between Wednesday to Friday next week.
Next week,
Yes.
okay. So, isang aabangan natin yan. And then I heard you in another interview saying na may mga threats daw for some of the minority members in terms of budget. May mga ganun kasi dati, di ba, na minsan withhold yung budget. I mean, you know, that's part of the political, di ba? So,
kasama naman yan.
ano po yun? Anong nangyari doon?
Well, yung mga kasama din ni Congressman Suarez na tumatawag sa mga miyembro namin sa genuine minority na nagsasabing, baka magkaroon kayo ng kalaban, baka mawalan kayo ng budget, nakita niyo naman. But testament to the new leadership, Speaker GMA has expressly said that we will not penalize anyone simply because of how they vote on any issue.
She said that.
And she has said that because she's herself a victim. You know, people forget the fact that Speaker GMA was a deputy speaker like myself.
Yes, right.
But she was removed by Speaker Alvarez from that position, along with 5 other LP chairmen, when they all voted against the death penalty. Okay. So, sabi ni Speaker GMA that the reason for which I was elected was because of the absence of democratic space. I'm not going to allow that to happen. So, sabi ko nga, pwedeng takutin yung mga kasama ko, pero matagal lang takot yung mga yun.
Congressman, balikan ko lang din yung sinabi mo na you were deputy speaker. Ano nga yung nangyari na you were one of the deputy speakers under Speaker Alvarez? And also, I remember na during the presidency of Gloria Arroyo, you were with the administration. Kasi diba sa Pag-ibig, you were appointed in the Pag-ibig Fund, and then now you're on opposing sides. So, anong nangyari, sir?
Ganun talaga buhay, no? Parang hindi parang pag-aasawa na pagkasama mo panghabang buhay. But bago-bago. Sometime in the latter part of 2008, I got fired from Pag-ibig. We had a disagreement with the chairman then. I'm not gonna go into it. It was,
Okay.
tapos na yun. But, yeah, and then eventually, I ended up with the Liberal Party. It wasn't really my first party of choice. But at that point in time, in all honesty, it was the only home that, it was the only house that provided me a home. And yeah, I became Deputy Speaker. When the LP decided, we as a body decided to be part of the coalition. But along the way, we've seen also that there's just absence of any democratic space. Marami sa mga kasama namin, hindi makaboto sa martial law, hindi makaboto sa human rights, or pinaparusahan. So, when the opportunity came, when they came to us, they said, LP, sali ba kayo? Papalitan, gusto namin palitan si Speaker Alvarez. Of course, we said yes. We want a change in leadership, but we cannot vote for your candidate. Yes.
Okay, so marami pa tayong pag-uusapan, Congressman. We'll talk about Train 2 na tinatawag na ngayong trabaho. Okay? When we return, this is The Source on CNN Philippines. Still to come, what is the cost of a shift to a federal form of government? And will the Constituent Assembly happen under the Duterte administration? Congressman Miro Quimbo will still be with us after the break. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Marikina Representative Miro Quimbo. Congressman, balikan ko lang yung sinabi mo kanina na sabi mo baka matagalan when you file a case in the Supreme Court questioning yung kay Minority Leader Suarez. What's gonna happen? Kasi yung kay Congressman Bagila took more than a year and a half, sabi mo eh. So paano status quo? You're okay with that?
What we plan to do is, and what we're going to do is, there are 26 of us, and in fact, there are quite a few more who want to join us. We want to establish ourselves as a unique minority bloc, meaning we will not have the title of, but we will perform the checks and balance. We have a strong group. In fact, like I said, you know, I'm proud of the fact that despite the many threats and the overtures that have been stated against many of our members, we've managed to stay intact. We have literally like all the members of the Liberal Party, kumbaga, ito na yung mga natitira talaga sa amin. And then we have members of the Makabayan Bloc, the Akbayan Party List, the Magdalo Party List, as well as the Anak Mindanao. So, you know, it's a very vibrant group.
Mga ilan pa yung magjo-join, sir?
Secret muna.
Secret muna.
Secret muna.
10, more than 10?
Tingin ko 6 more.
6 more, okay.
Yes, yes.
So,
but like I said, while we will not have the title of as far as the majority is concerned, but we will perform our functions as doing the checks and balance. Somebody has to do it, and I think I've never been more fortunate to lead a group. It's difficult. You can imagine Akbayan and Makabayan all in the same table, as well as with our hardened Liberal Party members. But there are major issues that we're facing on train, on federalism, charter change, as well as on the budget. The period may be short, meaning there's just 10 months left, but we will make it count.
Ano pong tatawagin nyo sa grupo nyo? May pangalan na ba kayo?
Hindi ko pa alam eh. Pero right now is, well, we're the genuine minority as far as the rules are concerned, and even as far as the members are concerned. Sabi nga ng mga members, bakit pa sila pinaboto eh? Kasi ayaw din nilang bumoboto, but you know, it happened.
Okay, let's talk about yung legislation naman. You're a member of the House Committee on Ways and Means, and the committee just approved yung Train 2, or you're branding it now as Trabajo. So, tell us about that. Kasi sa Senate, sabi nila, mukhang kahit nag-file na si Senate President ng similar bill, eh mukhang malabo daw doon. Ano ba talaga? Ano bang makukuha natin dito sa Train 2? Ano ba ito?
Well, una-una, I want to register first that I have strongest reservations with Train 2 or Trabajo. But really, Train 2 addresses the corporate side. Kung yung Train 1 talked about the individual taxpayer, ito naman is purely corporate. So, two phases. One phase is reduction of the corporate income tax. Yung pangalawang phase is the withdrawal or rationalization of fiscal incentives. So, ang thrust ng DOF is that ayaw nila na pag binabaan natin ang corporate income tax rate, which is at 30% today, highest in the ASEAN, the most uncompetitive rate. Pag binabaan natin yan by 1%, sabi nila, bababa yung ating tax collection by 26 billion per annum.
1% pa lang yun,
1%. Pero I'm contesting that, but that's their contention. So saan babawiin yun is, bawiin natin yung mga tax breaks, tax holidays, tax incentives na binibigay natin sa iba't ibang sektor. Education sector, broadcast sector, health sector, hospitals, BPOs, export-related companies. So doon nila babawiin by removing yung mga tax breaks nila doon at gawin silang corporate income tax na normal din. So, yun ang balancing act na ginagawa.
Tama ba itong nakita ko na DOF is saying? Kasi yung mga incentives na yan, it's worth about 300, costs the government about 300 billion pesos a year just for those incentives.
Yes.
Kaya babawasan or i-rationalize siya. Ganun yung mangyayari, ano?
Oo.
Pero may fears nga na, you mentioned, kasi may incentives for education, for hospitals. Yun naman yung fear nila, na tataas yung mga hospital fees, tataas ang tuition. How will you balance that?
Okay. I think ang una-una natin kailangan gawin is there are two issues here. Yung corporate income tax na napakataas, kaya tuloy walang pumapasok sa ating negosyante.
Investors,
Or
okay.
nagdadalawang isip. You look at our foreign direct investment or FDI, really lags. We're not even 10% of what Cambodia or Vietnam is getting. So one of the main reasons there is that our taxes are just way too high. Because no company will surrender 3 months of their income, which is 30%. Susuko mo yung 3 buwan, wala talagang may gusto na ibigay yon. If in Cambodia, they will just levy you 5%. So, we need to address that. And the way to address that is simply by lowering it. Hindi dapat konektado siya dun sa usapin ng fiscal incentives because it's a different matter
Pero
altogether.
kasi sa totoong buhay, mararamdaman kasi ng mga consumers mo yun.
Yes,
yung sa hospital, yung sa schools.
Absolutely. No, that's why what
Which is
I'm
what
saying.
happened with Train 1.
That's why ang sinasabi ko is, pag pinag-usapan ng fiscal incentives, hindi siya dapat conditional na bababaan namin ng tax rate ng corporations kung tatanggalin natin yung tax break ng mga schools at ospital. Hindi. Babaan natin yung corporate income tax kasi kailangan natin because we know that when we lower it, two things happen. First, is that more people comply na hindi nagko-comply ngayon.
Kasi mababa na eh.
Mas realistic Ngayon, pag sinabi lang 30%, napupunta lang kay Napoles, wag na, tago na lang ako, suhol na lang ako sa BIR. But when you actually lower it, people will realize, sige na nga, suporta tayo. The second effect is that we become more attractive to foreign direct investment. So, lowering actually expands the economy. So, dapat i-address natin yan separately. Pero yung concern natin dun sa fiscal incentives, we have to carefully tread this line. Because not only are you going to potentially increase costs of school tuition fee, you're going to affect also medical costs.
Yes.
But more importantly, you're looking at sectors like the BPO sector. The BPO sector is 1.6 million workers. It brings in more money today than OFWs. So, konti lang kibot natin dyan, lahat ng foreign investors,
Malaki ang epekto.
nagdadalawang isip.
Oo.
Parang,
Kasi sir, ang sinasabi, malabo makapasa yan sa Senado. Pakinggan natin yung isang statement ni Senator Win Gatchalian kasi nga daw parang nadala na sila dun sa Train 1. Let's listen.
This is my thought on Train 2. Napaso na yung mga senators eh. Because in Train 1, during the hearings, we were assured that inflation will not reach 4%. No, that was repeated many, many times. But 6 months down the road, inflation reached 4%. In fact, it's at 5.2%. No, so people were now, the senators are now saying, and also the public are now saying, ano nangyari?
Yun nga sir, yung address din natin yung possible increase na, you mentioned that increase in prices, tuition fee, ganyan, and then inflation in general.
yeah, that's a problem because right now, we have overshot all the estimates on inflation by almost 2%.
Yes.
It's just unheard of. And again, this is the same direction that's being foisted sa atin is that as we have realized, as we have seen, and as we have been saying in the Train 1, is that in theory, magaling yung mga sinasabi ng DOF. But many of them really don't know what's happening on the ground. And many of the legislators, like what Senator Win is saying, took all the data, hook, line, and
Yes.
sinker, all the assumptions, in-assume na tama yan lahat, despite many questions which I personally raised too, because I chaired the Committee on Ways and Means in the past Congress. So I was very well versed in terms of liberalizing the income tax by lowering it, but I had always been against any form of excise tax. So tingin ko yan ang magiging worry. At pangalawa, ang hindi na-realize din ng tao is that even with Train 1 and Train 2, pardon my word, but trabahong tamad. Tamad na DOF. Bakit? Anong pinaka-problema ng Pilipinas? Ang problema natin is that our tax effort, meaning yung ability to collect, we are currently at 14.1% of GDP. Pag tinignan mo sa iba't ibang bansa na moderno, even here in the ASEAN, they're at 18, 19, 20%. Ibig sabihin, we're not doing our job. The DOF always thinks that hindi kami makakolekta kasi yung batas kulang eh. Kailangan natin dagdagan. Pero sa totoo lang, lahat ng batas na gusto nilang gawin is puro passive taxes. Hindi yung kailangan mong hanapin pa. Ano yun? Excise tax on fuel. They just sit on their asses and each time somebody pumps gas, kumukolekta sila. As opposed to other countries where you collect by looking for people who are making a salary. Magkano bang kinikita mo? O, magbayad ka. But mas mahirap yung trabahong yun eh. Again, dito sa corporate income tax at saka sa fiscal intent, ganun din ang ginagawa. When in
Para
fact,
mas magbayad na lang sila, ganon.
which in fact, what you should be doing is looking for companies who are not paying. All these smugglers na pumapasok sa atin, sabi nila, 3.8% of GDP is lost due to smuggling. Bakit hindi muna yun ang habulin natin? Dito hindi. Bawasan na lang natin yung mga current taxpayers. In short, let's live with the fact na kukunti lang ang nagbabayad. Sino ba dito yung mga masuswerteng hinayupak? Hanapin natin, tanggalin natin.
So ang trabahong tamad is they're not aggressively going after the tax evaders, ganon.
Yes.
Oo.
Yes, and data has shown that this runs in the 300, 350 billion, even just for customs leakages. So, bakit hindi tayo doon? So, what I'm saying is the DOF is fond of, the DOF and the BAR and the Bureau of Customs, in a tribe, para silang hunters natin, sila naghahanap ng pagkain para sa atin, para i-build yung ating build. But what's happening is, they're hunting those that are already inside the zoo. Yun ang kanilang hinahunting. Yung nagko-comply na, yun ang pinarurusahan. We should be looking for the big animals, the big game who are not complying.
Okay, very interesting talk today. Thank you very much to Congressman Miro Quimbo and hintayin namin ang inyong case sa Supreme Court. Sir Chacha, sayang yung issue na yan. What's your take on that? Further change, yeah.
If you ask me, the way things are running in Congress and as well as with the Senate, I think Chacha is dead.
Because?
Because there's just no more time. There's just no more time, and it really requires both houses of Congress meeting as a constituent assembly. And the Senate is far from that, and I've seen the positions being taken in the House. As far as we are concerned, Chacha is dead.
Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for joining us here on The Source. Thank you very much, Congressman Quimbo. I'm Ruth Cabal, and you're watching CNN Philippines.